What would you do if a dead man's hand followed you home? Not in a dream, not in a nightmare, but in real life every single night. This is not a campfire story. It is the chilling, true-life account of a surgeon who thought he could outsmart death until death decided to reach back. Picture this: a cold, dimly lit surgical theater in the late 1800s. The air smells of carbolic acid and iron. The gas lamps flicker on the tiled walls, casting strange, stretched shadows. Dr. Howard Lanchester, young, brilliant, and ambitious, stands over a body that is no longer breathing. On the table next to him is something no doctor should prepared: a saw, a spool of silk thread, and a severed arm. The man who owned it had died in prison just hours earlier. A convicted murderer, known for his violence, known for his hatred. Witnesses swore that with his final breath, he cursed everyone in the room, promised to drag them to the grave with him. But Howard wasn't the type to fear curses. He feared obscurity. He dreamed of proving that dead nerves could live again, that muscle could respond after death. So, with his assistants watching nervously, he did the unthinkable. He took the dead man's hand and stitched it onto a living patient's leg. Imagine the silence in that room, the steady drip of ether, the sound of Howard's thread pulling through skin, knot after knot. At first, the operation was just that, a surgery. But when the last stitch was tied, Howard stepped back. His breath fogged the cold air as he stared at the pale, lifeless hand where a leg should be. For a few moments, nothing happened. And then, a single finger twitched. The nurses gasped. Someone dropped a tray. Howard smiled, almost giddy. He had done it. He had made the dead live again. But that moment of triumph didn't last. When the patient woke up, he began to scream, not from pain, but from sheer terror. He said the hand felt wrong. Not heavy, not numb, but aware. He swore it gripped him when he tried to sleep. Sometimes it clenched on its own, leaving red marks on his skin. Howard called it shock, a symptom of surgery. But days later, when he tried to remove the stitches, he found something chilling. The sutures had grown deeper than he remembered, as if the flesh itself had pulled them tighter. And when he lifted the hand to cut the thread, its fingers curled and clamped down on his wrist. Everyone in the room froze. Even the patient, weak as he was, cried out that the hand wouldn't let go. Howard had to pry it off finger by finger, until it finally fell limp. The patient died less than a week later, not from infection, not from blood loss, but from fright. The night nurses found him sitting bolt upright, eyes open wide, mouth frozen in a silent scream, and a hand still gripping his thigh. Howard had a limb removed and buried in an unmarked grave outside town. But that's when his nightmare truly began. At home, the house grew strange. Doors opened by themselves. Cups toppled from shelves. His dog refused to enter his study, barking at empty air. And then Howard began to see it. The hand, sometimes in the corner of the room, just resting there, palm up, sometimes crawling across the floor like a pale spider, leaving no sound except a faint scrape of fingernails on wood. Howard stopped sleeping. When he closed his eyes, he felt cold fingers press against his throat, as if testing how much pressure it would take to stop his breath. His friends noticed a change. The once proud doctor became gaunt, hollow-eyed, muttering about something that followed him. He abandoned his surgery, burned his medical notes, and stopped accepting patients. Soon rumors spread through town. Children claimed they saw something moving in the dirt near the cemetery. Neighbors said they heard scratching under Howard's floorboards at night. Once, during a storm, Howard ran into the street in his nightclothes, screaming that the hand was in his bed, clawing at him, trying to drag him away. By the final year of his life, Howard was a recluse. He refused to shake hands, even with his own children. He boarded up his windows and refused to let anyone touch him, as if human contact might give the hand another chance to grab hold. And when he finally died, the nurse who attended him swore his last words were not a prayer, not a farewell, but a terrified plea. Take it off me. For God's sake, take it off me. Some call this just a cautionary tale about hubris, about meddling with what should stay buried. But others say the story is true, that the grave where the severed arm was buried is still there, marked only with rough stone. Locals whisper that if you place your hand on the dirt at midnight, you'll feel something grip your fingers, and it won't let go until you pull away. Maybe Howard proved that dead tissue can live again. Or maybe he proved something much older, that death does not like to be cheated. And sometimes, when you bring something back from the other side, it follows you home. If you made it to the end of this haunting tale, tell me in the comments, would you dare to touch that grave? And if you enjoy chilling stories like this one, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a night like this.